Happy Devils Wednesday. This is the State of the Fan Address presented by pucksandpitchforks.com. I'm your host, Sam Wu, here with the editor-in-chief extraordinaire, Nick Villano, streaming live on Facebook Live, YouTube Live, X Live, and Twitch on the Let's Go Devils Network. Talking Devils hockey as free agency. Has it been a frenzy? Has it been a flop for your New Jersey Devils? Is Tom Fitzgerald done? What's going on here? I want to hear from you on all the social media channels. Nick, you've said some interesting things to me off air, but I don't think Tom Fitzgerald is done. I think there's more to come. It hasn't been that sexy, but, well, I don't know where to start other than that nice Jake Allen contract, 5 years. Let's start with that.
Yeah, I mean, listen, when I heard that Jake Allen was returning, when the Kevin Weeks tweet came out, my first reaction was, terrible idea. Why are you spending your cap space on this? This is not a smart move. But again, like we react. I love this. I always get in trouble because I'll react on Twitter, and then people hours later will react to my reaction, and it's fine. That's just kind of how social media works. But I clearly changed my mind once I saw the number. I thought the number was going to be like 4. Like, to keep him away from free agency, I thought it was going to be like 4, 4.5, 5, somewhere in that range for like a 2-year deal. They get him in a 5-year deal at less than $2 million. Like, it's such a phenomenal deal. Like, the same. Look around the league. There's so many backup goalies making $4 and $5 million. You know, the Vancouver just signed Thatcher Demko for $1 billion, but I think Lankinen's their backup, and he's making over $4 million. It's you look at so many teams using this method, right? A lot of teams are the Panthers did this with a couple guys. They did this with Marchand. They did this with a couple guys where you pay them through like some insane number. And it gets you in trouble because eventually like the goose is going to come to cook. But that's not the case for the Devils. There's 2 reasons why this contract's not a poison pill. We'll start with the age. So Allen's, I think, 34, right? So since he didn't sign this contract when he was 35, if he retires, the cap is wiped out. The Devils do not owe on the cap if Allen retires early. So the $1.8 million is completely wiped out. If he's bought out, the Devils front-loaded this contract. I think he's making like 3 or 3.5 in the first season and then like 3.4 the second season. So if they buy him out after, I think it's season 3. So if they buy out the last 2 years of the contract, it costs them like $600,000 a year for 4 years. Like that's not even the cost of a player. So, the Devils have put themselves in a really interesting position, and Sam, like, the goaltending is why they made the playoffs last year. Like, straight up. It was the play in December to bank all those points, and then it was the goaltending just keeping them afloat in 2025. Like, Allen and Markstrom were very effective. Markstrom was a little rough after the injury, but he was extremely effective in the playoffs. Jake Allen was extremely effective when Markstrom was out with his injury, really keeping this Devils team afloat. He at one point had one of the best goals saved above averages in the league. He still finished with like I think he's up there with like the per 60 numbers because he didn't play as much as the starting goalies, but he's up there. I think he's right under like Hellebuck. He's like one of the top 5 goalies in goal save above average per 60 minutes. He was fantastic last year. I couldn't be happier with the number. Couldn't be happier with the return. My only thought is and Tom Fitzgerald addressed this a little today, but you got to be sad if you're Nico Dawes, right? Like that kind of stinks for him. But again, I think that the Devils learned a very valuable lesson 2 years ago. when they went into the season with Vitek Vanacek and Akira Schmid as the tandem. And Vitek was coming off just a terrible playoff. He was all up in his head, and you had no depth. So what the Devils should do is Sam, how many times have I been on this podcast and say carry 3 goalies? Carry 3 goalies. You have been in a position where you've blown the goalie position. Carry 3 goalies. I don't see why you don't this time. Because in the AHL, you lost Isaac Polter to Winnipeg. He signed in Winnipeg today, and I'm very happy for him. This guy earned his second NHL contract that seemed almost impossible a couple years ago. But you're going to have Malik coming over from, I think he was in the Swiss League last year, but he's already signed. He's ready to go. You're going to have, Jeremy Brodeur is a fine AHL backup. You got Tyler Brennan, who might be ready to back up in the AHL, but probably would do better with starting the ECHL. And then there you go. You could let Malik be your starter. Malik was really good last year in this. Again, I think it was the Swiss League. I think he's ready to take the starting job in the AHL. And then you give Dawes the third goalie job. It's the Devils always have one of the most back-to-backs in the league. It just happens every year, so I just assume it's going to happen again. Dawes can be your backup for both of those games. So if you ever have to pull Allen or you have to pull Markstrom, you don't have to worry about risking injury for the other guy because they're playing on back-to-back nights. It's a smart move. But again, I don't want to jump ahead. I want to give Tom Fitzgerald all the credit in the world because this contract was amazing.
You know what? At first, I thought it was a little absurd. Didn't understand it. That was my initial reaction. But as the more you study it, and again, all the nuances of the collective bargaining agreement and all. Look, I wanted Jake Allen back. How was that going to happen? It had to be at the right price. It is at the right price because it's
less than I thought it was even possible. Yeah. Even in a 5-year deal, I thought he'd get 2.5.
So obviously, he's a goaltender that wants to be here. And that's important. You remember Moose Hedberg backing up Marty Brodeur. I mean, it was a 1A, 1B scenario. Markstrom's the guy here. Allen definitely proved himself last season, filling in when Markstrom got hurt all of a sudden. And with Nico Dawes in the AHL, or being that third goaltender, he actually performed. His numbers were pretty good up at the NHL level. So, again, it's status quo with the goaltending. And the goaltending was consistent last season. And on top of everything else, was not a problem like it had been for a decade. Practically a decade, on and off. So, having stability, continuity there, I'm cool with it. Even though they're 1 year older, they showed no signs of slowing down. I think, if anything, Markstrom, look, when Brodeur, when he turned 40, he was still on top of his game, but then eventually kind of leveled off and then went down for the most part.
Was he 39 in 2012?
39, his 40th birthday was against the Flyers Game 4 in May 6th of 2012. Mm-hmm. So that's right. So that's when he turned 40. And I think Tim Thomas...
He was still pretty good that next year before the injury.
Yeah, and Tim Thomas as well, late bloomer. Mm-hmm. He played in his late 30s, and that's when he started to peak. And, again... look
at Bobrovsky.
Yeah.
What is he, 36, 37?
37, yeah. But, you're going to need veteran goaltenders. And I just want to bounce a little around here, Nick. What the Florida Panthers have done, I mean, they're all in with the guys that have proven themselves of knowing how to win a Stanley Cup. I mean, they went all in. Zito went all in, got creative with the Marchand deal, which, again, it's like, well, is a circumvention, in the works here? I don't know. But only because we remember the Covey deal, which is now off the books, and Chris Pronger, which the Flyers got nothing.
There were so many. Shea Weber's deal
Yeah.
was circumvention, and he ended up retiring early like everybody thought.
Yep.
There was a couple deals that were like 10, 12, 15 years. But only the Devils got punished. So,
But I think we can finally say this. It's a copycat league, but the Florida Panthers right now are the team to beat in the next 5 years.
I
mean,
disagree.
You disagree? And why is that?
So, because I covered the Lightning, and it's almost the exact formula. So the Lightning it's almost the exact formula, except they didn't almost miss the playoffs in that first year. But so the Panthers started this off by winning the President's Trophy. Made major changes to the roster when they failed in, I think it was the first round, and then started their cup runs. They have now done 3 cup runs in a row. So this is 3 years in a row where a majority of that core has played 100 games a year. You already started seeing this year the injuries just layering. And they overcame them, but a lot of the injuries that Tkachuk suffered are there's a high chance of, not a high chance, but there's a chance of reoccurring. I think Marchand had a hip injury. Like those reoccur. I think it was a hip injury. Ekblad has dealt with injuries. I just think like eventually the toll that this many games takes is too much. And it just eventually it's just you run out of steam. And you saw it with the Lightning. It's not like, back when the Islanders were doing this, right? It was just a different league. There was a different level of parity with talent. And the Panthers play in that Atlantic Division. So you're going to see Tampa again. They're going to be good. They got taken to Game 7 by Toronto. And I think Toronto's a little worse this year. We'll see what happens there. I don't know what's going on with Boston. Boston's having a weird offseason. But they have a good structure in place in Boston that, they could come back. I really like Ottawa. I think Ottawa's on the come up. I think that they could be good next year. Detroit and Buffalo, I'm not that concerned about. But, they're in a hard division with the Atlantic. And I just think they're going to run out of steam. I like that they brought everybody back. They have a Stanley Cup roster. But again, I've just seen this before. I saw it very close, right? I covered that Lightning team. You remember that. Like I was producing those Stanley Cup specials when they were going. And we were talking to players. And I was talking to our sports guys a lot who were at the arena every single day. And you saw that next season where there's a lot of times where they're just, they're going through the motions, which is typical of that team. The Panthers this year as well. But you get to the playoffs, and it just gets a little bit harder each year when you play 100 games the year before to get up, to rev the engine, to and it's not because you're not motivated. It's because you're just your body has just been beaten. And I think Tampa is still feeling it. Right? They lost to Florida, 5 games this year?
I don't know, but you just blew up my spot, Nick. Because I'm going to tell you why you're wrong.
Okay.
Actually, I'm not. Actually, you make a pretty good point. I was just kind of kidding around, but
I wouldn't be floored if they won again next year. I wouldn't.
I can't think of another team right now. You've got Tkachuk, Reinhart, Bennett, amongst others, really entering their prime. You're talking about the next 5 years. Bobrovsky, I don't think he's going to make it, in 5 years from now, but he could. You never know. But you're talking. I get what you're saying, but right now you can't name another team. Right now, that is as powerful as the Florida Panthers are.
No, not at all. No, I can't. You're right. And the East
And
stinks.
Tampa
It stinks.
and Tampa cheated with the LTIR. And plus, they won a Stanley
Panthers
Cup.
did that this year.
What's that?
Panthers did that this year.
I know, but still, the Tampa Bay Lightning in 2020, I don't even count 2020 as a Stanley Cup. Even the NBA, the 2020, finals, whatever, that was
That's
just
convenient.
a strange year. It was
I would have counted it if the Devils won.
I
get it. It's bubble.
I would put an asterisk mark next to it. For dynasty
I
purposes,
think a title's a title.
For dynasty purposes, there's an asterisk there. But it's a copycat league. At the same time, now let's pull back and talk about the New Jersey Devils. The current team right now, last season, they did beat the Panthers in the regular season.
When they were playing at their best.
Yeah.
But yeah.
It's just, how does Tom Fitzgerald, what does he, in terms of like the grit, the tenacity, the Devils are just not at the Panthers level. They're getting better, I'll say. I liked how Timo Meier played during the playoffs. I liked what he did in the World Championships, but it's not like the Florida Panthers. They find ways to win. They have that it factor.
I'm going to sound crazy when I say this.
Oh, good.
I think the Devils are one player away from being as good as the Panthers.
Like a book
I
scoring
think
away?
it's a really good player. I think realistically they're two. They're 2 players away, but I don't think they're going to be able to get the second one. I think, unless they make trades. With the current roster, as it stands, I think if you trade away Palat and turn him into a top 2 winger, like a first-line winger. So we're talking about Jason Robertson, we're talking about Jordan Kyrou, we're talking about... I think there's a non-zero chance that Mark Stone becomes available. If you turn him into a guy like that, I think the Devils can beat the Panthers in the playoffs. They've added the pieces that were missing. They were missing speed. Connor Brown is very fast, and he plays decent defense. Evgeny Dadonov, I think it's Dadonov. Evgeny Dadonov is very fast. Speaks Russian, so you compare him with Arseny Gritsik, which was one of your concerns. And Gritsik, I wouldn't call him fast, but he's agile. Can skid around guys. You have guys, like, how often did the Panthers score in the breakout in the playoffs? It was a ton, right? Like, I'm not asking for the number, but like you saw, like Marchand would break out the other way to Kachuk, and even Barkov was going on the breakout a lot. Reinhart did it a ton. Bennett did it a ton. You've built this team in the Devils to do that, to play that way. You have gritty guys in Cotter and Nason. Bratt played gritty last year at over 80 hits. It also depends on who comes back on defense. So, Tom Fitzgerald came out today. So the only guy that's going to miss part of the season is Kovacevic, which is unfortunate. I was surprised though. I thought there was a chance that Dylan's was gonna miss time.
That's what I thought.
And apparently he's not. Again, it's more of a I'll believe it when I see it kind of thing, but I have to believe what Fitzgerald says, and he says Dylan's going to be back. I thought there was an outside chance that Luke Hughes missed time. He had shoulder surgery. He missed time to start last season with a shoulder injury. I thought they would slow play it, but it sounds like he's going to be ready for training camp. And Yeah, that's it. I think Pesci's fine. I think Hamilton's fine. I think Seagathar played at Worlds, so he's obviously fine. You also have to, with Kovacevic missing the first part of the season, it definitely makes life a little bit easier on Tom Fitzgerald if they make no other defensive moves because Nemitz has the spot, right? He's going to get to start the season, and you're going to get to, when Kovacevic is ready to go. And I think it's going to be a while, Sam. I think it's like January. Like, people aren't talking about this, and this is just a prediction. I don't have, like, a medical update or anything like that. But just based on what I think happened to him, I think he's gone till January at the earliest. And if everything's clicking, you can hold him out till March.
Mm-hmm.
You know what I mean? Like, bring him back in March.
You be your trade line depth without making it a trade.
Right. Yeah, you add a really good guy. And here's the thing, Sam. Like, do you not feel better about the Kovacevic contract after seeing some of the contracts that went out this offseason?
Yeah. Again, I think the Devils are in a good place right now. I mean, they have depth on defense. Casey and Nemitz are 1 year experience. And I think Nemitz. I've been very critical on the kid, but he did show some tenacity in the playoffs. And he did score that big goal in game 3? Game 4?
Mm-hmm.
I forgot which one.
3.
But 3.
It was game 3.
And, yeah.
Made it 2-1, and then we all had hope.
Yeah.
It got dashed in game 4.
Yes. Scotty and I were sitting in the rich people section, so I didn't really remember because I was...
You were a cookie.
Yeah. No, game 4 I was a cookie.
That's what that's what I was talking about. But
yeah. So... again, it's... You really think if you're going against the Florida Panthers, they got the grit, they've got the experience. You think that extra speed is enough to get around these guys?
Yes.
If you roll 4
because
lines.
I think
if you roll 4 lines, I would agree.
You can't, Hughes can't get injured. Nico Hischier can't get it. You can't lose one of your guys. But I think if you go into the playoffs healthy, and I've said this, that 22-23 team could have beaten anybody, but they went through just like the type of series that a young team has trouble just bouncing back from, where you beat your rivals in Game 7, and then 2 days later you have to play a team on 5 days rest. Yeah. I just think it was and there's this format that the league has put together sets itself up for that. Like, that's going to happen sometimes. There's nothing that anybody can do. It's just the situation.
I hate the format.
But that's why the Devils... The format's terrible. I go 1 through 8, and I'm saying this as a guy, roots for a team in the terrible Metropolitan Division. I think this division is awful. Terrible. And it didn't get that much better. And here's what's interesting, Sam. So the Carolina Hurricanes have tried on a lot of players. And I don't want to say they're striking out, but they got Condre Miller, paid him all of the money in the world.
Yeah.
And now they're going for Nikolaj Ehlers. I'm going to regret this probably, but none of that scares me. I don't think that makes them that much better. I think Ehlers is a good player. I'd be excited if the Devils signed him. But again, when I'm looking at it, and I said the Devils are that one big player away, I don't know if Ehlers is that guy. I'm not we got Ehlers now. Now we can compete with the Panthers. I don't know if that's true. I think he makes us better.
Remember when the Devils got to Foley? I remember talking to you about that. This is after that wonderful season that the Devils had, the record-breaking season. And you're like, if this is true, because at the time it was just speculation or rumors,
sure.
They're getting to Foley. You're like, this changes everything. But it didn't. But not saying Toffoli wasn't good, but unfortunately,
Right, Toffoli led us in goals that year.
Yeah. So
But our goalies went to hell. And I was stupid that offseason, and I even wrote an article that said, we have the goalies, we're fine. And I write a lot of things. I write 50 articles a month, guys. Like, I'm going to write some things that don't come true. But them not having the goalie was the difference between making the playoffs and being, I think they were 10 points out or something.
I stuck to my guns. I stuck to my guns with Vitek Vanacek. I held on to him too long.
Who signed him? Somebody signed him. He got a contract.
Oh, I don't know. I know he's a Stanley
somewhere.
Cup champion somewhere.
Yeah, he's not in Florida anymore, but somebody signed him. I can't remember. Somebody signed Kakkonen.
Yeah.
Gave him $1.5 million.
I saw that.
I can't remember him either, but I saw he got $1.5 million, and I was floored.
A lot of former Devils have had success after leaving New Jersey.
They have. I think Tom Fitzgerald is a great NHL talent evaluator. There's an issue with his development. The prospects do not develop. And Utica is always a tire fire. Always. Which is problematic. And he trusts his previous decisions too much. You know, the Lindy Ruff decision, the goalie decision. Last year, he trusted that he fixed it with Tatar, right? Oh, that's the move. And every year, this team has gone in with a distinct flaw that has not been addressed, and it bites them. Last year, there was two. Last year, it was top six scoring. They were missing a winger. And center depth. It was very clear that going into the season with Eric Hall as your number 3 center and Curtis Lazar as your number 4 center and nothing behind them. Your backup plan was Dawson Mercer. Dawson Mercer doesn't want to play center. And he plays like he doesn't want to play center. You had no center depth. So when Halla and Lazar both got hurt, that's how you get Justin Dowling playing 40 games. Justin Dowling, who signed with the Rangers, by the way.
Yeah.
I laughed a little.
Instead of Logan Cooley, he could have been playing center, but we got Nemitz.
Cooley and Wright. If either of us got our way, Sam, again, you always tout that I thought they were going to draft Nemitz, and I can tout the player at least, because I have a lot of guys who are number crunchers who really like him. I wanted Wright. You wanted Cooley. I think we both could say we were right? Like,
is that we were pun correct in there? Were you trying to be
we were
punny?
correct in our assessment.
Okay, good.
How much better is this team with either of those players, Wright or Cooley, right now? Is it not worlds better? I think Nemitz could be something. I don't want to trade him for nothing, but this team is exponentially better with Shane Wright or Logan Cooley. Agreed. And again, you're looking at a team. I found it interesting. Somebody pointed out that the Rangers had, I think, 9 first-round picks from 2016 to 2019 over those 4 or 5 drafts, and they traded all of them. And most of them were bad, but they got something good for like Condre Miller. But
Lafreniere's still not there.
He was 2020.
Oh, okay.
So the year after. But they traded Kakko. They traded Elias Anderson. They traded Ryan Lindgren, I think, was on that list. But, they had 9 guys, and they all no longer play for the Rangers. You're looking at the Devils with, like, the 2020 and 2021 drafts. And if they trade Dawson Mercer this offseason, they had 5 picks in the first round, and Luke Hughes is the only one still here. And it's because his last name is Hughes. He's really good, too, but, the one guy who's still here from those 2 drafts is the brother of your star player. And that's not a great look. And that's if they trade Mercer. I don't want them to trade Mercer. I think it's a terrible idea if they trade Mercer. I think there's no way you get equal value for Mercer right now. But I have a gut feeling that they're going to trade Mercer.
Well, if you're going to trade Mercer or Nemitz, it's got to be something good coming back. And we're talking already a perennial all-star.
I don't think it's going to be. Unless you get something like he goes in like the Brian Russ deal. I think
What's Vancouver
I'm just trying to think
gonna
of
do?
like
What's Vancouver going to do?
they're going all in. They're going all in. They are putting all their chips on the table for this season. And then if it doesn't work, they're going to trade Quinn Hughes. But I would put the chances that they trade. I think the chance they trade Quinn Hughes this offseason is 0. I think there's no chance. I think it's off the table. The chance they trade him by the next deadline is like 20%, maybe 15%. And then you're looking at like if they don't make the playoffs next year, it's like a 90% chance that he's traded next offseason. If they make the playoffs and flame out, it's kind of like a 60% chance. If they go on a run, that's when you're kind of in trouble for the Devils, right? Because now you're looking at it, and they might have missed their chance, right? Not missed their chance. I'm overstating it, but you might have missed your chance to get him 2 years early. You know, if you pounced on them and just called them and said Mercer, Nemitz, and a first-round pick, and you gave them the offer that like made it happen, and then you get Quinn Hughes for 2 more years at a very reasonable contract. I think he's making like $7.5 million, right?
Mm-hmm.
You know, I think what happened is I would put money on it that Fitzgerald called. So what's the situation? Like we're just waiting it out right now, and either Fitzgerald gave them like an offer of like you got to take Dylan back, or you got to take Hamilton, or you got to solve one of my problems in this deal, and he didn't give them the grandfather offer off the jump. So, and what happened was Vancouver talked themselves into things. Elias Pettersson started to feel better about things, and now Vancouver, they brought back Brock Besser, which I was floored. I would have liked that contract, honestly. Like I think Brock Besser would have fit really well with the Devils.
Oh yeah.
I just didn't want to pay him 9, but paying him 7, I think that's a decent contract. They signed a couple other guys. They gave Thatcher Demko the big contract. They spent a lot of money. They traded for Evander Kane, which is bizarre. They're going for it. I think it's a bad idea. I think it's a mistake. I think it's going to hurt the value of Quinn Hughes. I think they're going to, but again, they got like a pretty insane value for JT Miller. So Marcus Pettersson is a really good player.
I think the Devils right now have all the leverage right now because they don't need to make a deal for Quinn.
No.
They really don't, and they can
They
wait
don't need
2 years.
but it would be nice.
Yeah, I mean they could wait.
But I
2
think it's off
years.
the table.
But I think the most important thing, if before you even talk about Quinn Hughes, is Luke Hughes. I think
Sure.
it's time to sign him to a max deal right now, 8 years.
Right.
While you still have that 8 years, get it done now. And get it done and over with.
Two things worked in the Devils' favor. This new CBA, where this is the last offseason of 8-year contracts, right? Next year, it turns into 7. So you have that working in your favor, where like this is the last time, you could kind of put your chips on the table and say, we're signing to the max. Next year, that max changes. We have to do the 8 years. Also, you have other big guys signing 8-year deals. Noah Dobson signed for 8 years. Kendra Miller signed for 8 years. There was one other guy who signed for 8 years. Did Provorov sign for 8?
7. No,
Or
he signed for 7, believe it or not.
I know Gavrikov signed for 7. I know there's another guy, but it's just not coming to me. But you have got, like, everybody was like, oh, everybody's going to sign for 4, for 5 with the cap going up. And I know that's what Bouchard did, but Bouchard's in a different stratosphere than Hughes. Bouchard is, considered one of the best defensemen in the league, especially on the offensive side. Led his team to a Stanley Cup final. Like, Hughes doesn't have that leverage. I think you just give him 8 years, $68 million. That would be $8.5 million per year. I think everybody walks away happy with that. I think you keep the band together. That would pretty much lock in Quinn Hughes. Unless Vancouver went to the final, I think that locks in Quinn Hughes. Because that's the only place that Quinn and Jack could play together for 6 years after Quinn gets to free agency. So I think I think that's the deal. I think it worked in your favor. I was interested in what Tom Fitzgerald said today, where he said I can't really make another move until the Quinn Hughes contract is done. And he didn't say those exact words, but that was me reading between the lines. Like, he can't make the theoretical Jason Robertson trade or Jordan Kyrou or the big, big, big money winger, because you don't know if is Luke going to make $6 million? Is he going to make $10 million? Like, what in between? What I don't love is when I hear that, I think that a bridge deal is even being discussed. I don't even think it should even be in a discussion. Don't even mention it. 8 years. That is your option. Tell me what the number is.
I agree. Pay him now, or you're going to pay the price later.
And listen, like, pairing yourself with your brothers is a marketing extravaganza. They're going to make money hand over fist right outside of New York. They were just at Fanatics Fest. They'll go every single year. And I don't know if they will go if they play in Buffalo, or if they play in Vancouver, or they play in Seattle, or they play in Detroit. Yeah, I don't think they'll have the same. I'm going to sound crazy because this is the Devils we're talking about. I don't think they have the same star power in Detroit. I just don't.
You mean Hockey Town?
I think they'll have star power in Detroit, but I don't know if Jack and Luke Hughes are on the cover of the NHL video game if they play in Detroit. They don't. People are going to come after me for saying this, but I think New Jersey is a more desirable market than Detroit right now because of its proximity to New York, of its proximity to Philadelphia. It's on the East Coast. It's right in the middle of it all. I think people look at New Jersey differently now than they do in the 90s and the early 2000s. And you're seeing that with Allen. I wanted to mention this before you mentioned it, and we can end it on this. Allen saying that is important. It is important that Allen came out and said, I wanted my family to live here. I've loved New Jersey. Because if you don't, I don't know if you remember this, Sam, he wouldn't waive his no-trade clause to come here. He didn't want to come to New Jersey. And then Tom Fitzgerald was diligent. Said, just come. Give it a shot. If you don't like it, I'll trade you. I think he said that. I think I remember that kind of being the conversation. And now he's going to be here for 7 years total, likely. And, Allen is going to sit here, and he'll be a good backup for Malik or Mikhail Yegorov or who knows, Trenton Bennett. Maybe he's still here when that behemoth is playing goalie for the Devils. So I think that matters. The same thing, Connor Brown said the same thing. So I looked at the situation, and it was best for my family, my child, my wife, and my dogs to go to New Jersey. I don't know what else you say to that. Like, guys are coming to New Jersey because they want to be in New Jersey. They don't care about the taxes. They don't care about properties. They don't care about the cost. They just want to be in New Jersey. They like it here. It's a nice place to raise a family if you go to the right place.
And still be under the radar and keep your privacy.
Right. You're not, in New York City if you don't want to be. And I was like, I truly think that New Jersey people don't. There's a certain level of celebrity watcher. I don't think we care. Like we when we were growing up, The Sopranos lived here, and that was the biggest show in television. I was like, okay, there's Gandolfini getting a sandwich from the deli. And some people would take pictures. What?
You lived in Tom's River?
Yeah, I grew up in Tom's River.
No, you lived in my town.
You thought I lived in your town?
No, he lived in my town. His dentist is my dentist at the time.
Oh, really? That's funny.
Yeah. And then, well, he could have had multiple houses. Yeah, I mean, Whitney Houston, lived near us.
Right. Springsteen was in Asbury Park.
Yeah, I mean, they'd be...
But again, I don't think we care. If I saw Jack Hughes in the wild, I'd just be like, eh. You know what I mean? It's celebrities have never been my thing. A lot of my friends are the same way. We'll be like, oh, hey, is that John Travolta? Yeah. Oh, that's cool. And then we go back, we just don't care about you.
Yeah.
We don't care what you're doing with your life. I also think we don't want to bother you.
Yeah.
I wouldn't want to be bothered when I'm eating dinner or I'm having a drink or getting a coffee. You know what I mean? Most New Jersey would just be like, hey, great play the other night. Or for an act to be like, oh, I loved you in Gotti. Nobody's ever said that to Travolta in his life. But, it's loved you in Face Off, bud. And then that's it. Maybe it's a picture, but that's it. It's not that serious. But anyway, I think Jersey's it. The one thing I will say, Sam, before we go, Dave Pagnotta of Fourth Period has directly tied New Jersey to Ellers. So I've been told from the beginning that the Devils were going to check in. I don't think Ellers is going to come here. But I just wanted to mention that. He's been tied. I do think Palat's going to get traded. I think Palat is getting traded. I think once Ellers signs, you're going to see some teams call it on Palat. There's a lot of teams with a lot of cap space still and needs. I'm looking at Columbus. I'm looking at Anaheim. I got to look at the cap space situations. I've always looked at Detroit, but I think they've made too many moves. Winnipeg would be a team I think would make a lot of sense for Palat. So I think Palat's moving. I said earlier, I think my gut says Mercer's moving. I think it's a bad idea. And then I don't think they're moving Dougie. I think there was a time where it was a possibility. Because if you don't know, Dougie Hamilton's trade protection significantly decreased. He went from having a full no trade, no move clause to now he has the no move clause, but he can be traded to all but 10 teams. He only has a 10-team trade list. So, and he got paid, I think, about $10.5 million yesterday. So he only has a $1 million salary this year.
Mm-hmm.
So there's a couple of reasons why Dougie could have been traded. I don't think it's happening, though. Just my gut feeling. If it happens, I won't be floored. Just with the Kovacevic injury, I don't think it's happening.
All right. Well, you made your great point.
Mm-hmm.
You made your great point. You got any plugs before we go?
Sam, over the past 4 days, pucksandpitchforks.com has published 25 articles.
Wow.
So I couldn't plug one specific article. We've still got articles coming out. Like we've referenced the Quinn situation. We've referenced every significant free agent. You know, Cody. We didn't even talk about Cody Glass signed today. That's the other weakness, by the way, I was talking about. I think Cody Glass is right now your 3C. I think you need to move him to 4C. And yeah, but that's another place that I would like an upgrade. I just don't know if they can do it. And that's another thing I'll talk about. I'll talk about the center situation because I think it's still not where you want it. I'm going to write about. There's a million things I'm going to write about, but there's a lot. It's a lot of reaction. Everything under the sun, every draft pick, except for there's one draft pick I didn't write about. I just ran out of time. But I have singular articles on each draft pick. I have, I'm thinking. I gotta look. I got a fan site article I gotta write, but I think I'm gonna write the top remaining free agents. I just want to see if Eller signs tonight. I'm gonna write it. If he doesn't sign tonight, I think I'll go to wait. We'll see. Maybe I'll write it with Ellers because if the Devils are tied to Ellers, then that's something you want to talk about. I've been afraid to write the Ellers article because I'm afraid I'm going to write it, and in the middle of me writing it, he's going to sign. Because I think he's going to sign any minute. But that could turn into any hour and any day.
Hey, if he signs, if he's in New Jersey Devils at 2 a.m. in the morning, will you come on?
No. I'll call in because I'll probably be up with the baby.
Okay. All right. Thought I asked. All right. I'm going on vacation in a couple days.
Oh.
I'm going to be cutting the cord. You're not going to hear from me for 7 or 8 days. Just letting everybody know. I need a little me time. Need to think things over. I'll be on a cruise somewhere.
Ooh.
Yeah. Somewhere.
Not a poop cruise.
Not a poop cruise. Just on a cruise.
That's like the pop. I don't know if that's the popular Netflix show.
Oh, I have no idea what you're talking about.
Okay. Sorry.
I don't really have
He's like, he doesn't get the reference. But anyway.
I don't have a life outside of this podcast. So, Nintendo, we did talk about the Daninoff signing, how brilliant it was. So you're going to have to re-listen to this podcast. He's asking right now.
We just touched on it. It's a great, great signing. It's another amazing contract by Fitzgerald where it's $1 million on the cap right now, and it might be another $2 million on the cap next year, but you deal with that. That's like teams are willing to, I think the Devils have like $30 million in cap space next year.
Money puck. That's what it was. Money puck.
Yeah.
But yeah, so anyway, but if news breaks tomorrow, we'll be there. But I'll be gone for a week and a half, relaxing, not thinking about things. But anyway,
enjoy.
Yeah, but you could go to pucksandpitchforks.com if news breaks. I can guarantee you that. Yeah. Alrighty. Well, thank you to all those tuning in. I see Ace was tuning in, Steve Engel, Ted, Jay Snow, Select the Boy, Devils Heaven 77, obviously Nintendo Wii. A lot of people tuning in on this fine off season. All right, gonna get out of here. Till next time, let's go Devils.